Scientists are discovering new properties within marijuana that would benefit both human health and it could even save Medicaid or Medicare more than $1 billion. So joining us now to break it all down is Danko, Senior Cultivation Editor over at High Times Magazine. Danny, it's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
So what are some of the new benefits that scientists are discovering around this?
Well, there's amazing benefits right now. It's effective in conjunction with chemotherapy drugs in treating cancer. They're talking about for menstrual cramps and things like that as well. There's a study that came out for Alzheimer's where cannabis is helping to mitigate Alzheimer's disease in people. And what's funny is there's always been this idea of munchies and things like that, and people joking about munchies and how marijuana causes munchies and causes people to relax in the couch and things like that. But those are
Which it does, because it does for me.
Exactly, and those are medical effects. I mean, if someone's suffering from nausea and can't eat and something makes them hungry, that's medical. If someone has anxiety and something calms them down, that's also medical.
Right, but so up until now, I mean, when cancer patients were taking it, it's because people thought like it helped bring their appetite back, right? But now this new proof is showing that THC and CBD is actually boosting the effectiveness of this chemotherapy drug.
Right, it's actually attacking people's tumors and helping them to boost their immunity and fight back against that, which is amazing. And because it's been illegal, these things haven't been studied. But now that we're seeing a lot of these university studies starting to accumulate evidence, instead of just the anecdotal evidence that's already existed, now we're getting actual medical evidence of the efficacy of cannabis.
But what's the best way to consume it? Because in these reports, they're actually saying that smoking it isn't the most efficient way if you're trying to maybe treat cancer or kill these tumors.
Right, and there are all kinds of different ways. I mean, there's edibles, there's topicals, and there's tinctures.
So one's not better than the other for
I think it really depends on the specific symptoms and the
Okay.
specific thing that you're trying to do. But there's vaporizers for people who aren't interested in smoking. And then again, there's edibles and tinctures and even topicals that you rub on your skin. So depending on the ailment, there's a variety of different cannabis medicines you can use.
Now, of course, we talk so frequently on this, and it's great that we're getting medical information to kind of back a lot of this stuff, but I can only assume that the research component of it has been hard to come by based upon Jeff Sessions, our Attorney General, being so anti-marijuana and, changing a lot of the laws and, and how he's going to prosecute them. So what limits really do researchers and scientists have when marijuana is still illegal in so many parts of this country and on the federal level?
Right. Well, the problem is getting the federal approval to do these studies and to do double-blind actual medical studies. And it's much easier to get that funding if your premise is to show that cannabis is ineffective. So the money is actually given to people who are going to show harms that are caused by cannabis, and they can't find any. So all this money poured into the research that's negative towards cannabis, and they're finding almost nothing negative and only positive benefits. And only now, particularly foreign countries like Israel and Spain and places like that, are actually getting ahead of us in this research because they allow it to occur.
And there's also been new research that came out that says medical marijuana can actually help with Alzheimer's prevention. Can you tell us just a little bit more about this and what they found out?
Absolutely. There's compounds in cannabis like CBD that you mentioned earlier that actually protect the brain, and this works with CTE, which is a big issue with concussions in sports, and also with Alzheimer's. So for people that are seniors that are getting up there, it protects their brain from attack. And so it's very interesting, and as opposed to things like pharmaceutical drugs and of course alcohol that are much more harmful and dangerous and actually attack the brain, here's a medicine that protects and actually heals people and keeps them from getting further complications of Alzheimer's. So, and we're only hoping that there'll be more and more studies and more release of federal funds and things like that to do these studies.
Now, New York, of course, the state that we're in right now, allows medical marijuana obviously for medical purposes. But what steps would the state need to take to make it legal for menstrual cramps?
Well, they have to change the law for things like menstrual cramps, for things like post-traumatic stress syndrome. A lot of the veterans are coming back. Obviously, New Yorkers in general, suffer from post-traumatic stress from a lot of different things. We live in a very kind of toxic environment in some ways, and marijuana is very effective in relieving some of those pains and some of that mental stuff too. So it involves changing the law. The problem here is we don't get to vote on it. We only have it come up through our political process. We don't have the referendum process here.
Right, okay, so that's what my next follow-up question was going to be. How would a state like New York legalize it? It's obviously not something that's going to be on a ballot like in a lot of states like Colorado or California.
Or could they just legalize topicals first for menstrual cramps where you just rub it on your body? You can't actually get high from it.
Right, well, that's the proposal that's there now to change the medical law so that it'll allow things like
The topicals.
And vapor pens and tinctures and things. That's already allowed now, but we're hoping that they'll expand on the program. And the politicians are far behind the government. Far behind the people when it comes to this, because the polling shows that people in New York State and all over the country and the world overwhelmingly support legalization. Politicians are sometimes a little afraid of being viewed as soft on drugs or soft on crime, but here it's obvious that the people want this.
Yes, the people of New York have spoken.
They have spoken, decided.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us today. Been a pleasure. Danny Danko, Senior Cultivation Editor from High Times Magazine. All right, guys, coming up.